Hello and welcome back to An Old Man Watches, and today I'm going to be talking about the 1973 horror film The Legend of Hell House. And in this film we meet physicist Dr. Lionel Barrett, who is enlisted by the eccentric millionaire Rudolf Dutch to undertake an investigation on the afterlife at Belasco House, the quote-unquote Mount Everest of haunted houses. This house was originally owned by Emmerich Belasco, an imposing, perverted millionaire and supposed murderer who disappeared soon after a massacre occurred at the home. The house is believed to be haunted by the victims of Belasco's twisted and sadistic desires. Now, Barrett doesn't put much stock in all the talk of spirits, believing that the supposedly supernatural manifestations are nothing but unfocused electromagnetic energy. This perhaps explains why he chooses to bring his wife with him to, the most haunted house in America. He's also built a machine which he believes will rid the building of its energy. But it needs to be broken down to be transported there, however, and then reassembled at the site, so it's not like he can just wheel it in and turn it on straight away. Of course, it wouldn't be much of a horror film if Barrett was right about the supernatural, so it's probably no surprise that accompanying him are two psychics, the impressionable Florence Tanner and the aloof Ben Fisher, who is the only survivor of a previous attempt to investigate the property. These two, as well as Barrett's wife, will be burdened with the role of suffering from and attempting to defeat the haunting that plagues Hell House. So this film was adapted for the screen by Richard Matheson from his own 1971 novel that was simply titled Hell House. Matheson was something of a giant figure within horror. Stephen King dedicated two novels to him. He's perhaps best known for his novel I Am Legend, about the life of the only normal human left alive in a world of vampires. George Romero listed the shambling vampire creatures that appear in The Last Man on Earth, the first film version of that novel, as the inspiration for the zombies in the genre-defining Night of the Living Dead. So Matheson's reputation is an impressive one, and deservedly so to my mind. But on the other hand, he also wrote Jaws 3D, so he has his off days from time to time. So the question becomes, is The Legend of Hell House one of his hits or one of his misses? Well, I'm glad you asked. But first of all, let's talk about a completely different book and film. So in Shirley Jackson's 1959 novel, The Haunting of Hill House, Hill, not Hell, and its 1963 film adaptation, The Haunting, a group of four people, some psychic, some skeptic, stay in a reputedly haunted mansion house with a macabre history and find themselves plagued by unseen terrors. The similarities to this film and the novel on which it was based should be obvious from those two summaries, right down to the fact that there's only one letter's difference between Hill House and Hell House. And indeed, by all accounts, Matheson's novel reads very much like a pulpier, more overtly violent and sexual version of Jackson's book. And frankly, having read Jackson's book and finding it rather underwhelming, I'm all for injecting a little extra gore and grue into the plot. And I think that the openly vicious, aggressive tactics of The Haunting in this movie are a positive for the film. The decision may sacrifice a little atmosphere and sense of mystery, but I think that's more than compensated for by the pace it injects and the sense of purposeful malice that it conveys. This is not a film that tries to play the is this real or is it just in their heads card. It just focuses instead on being a creepy haunted house movie. Like, there's not really any question about whether The Haunting is real. It's real and it's coming to get you. And for much of its runtime, the film does a decent job of meeting that goal. It even does a pretty good job of justifying Professor Barrett's continued refusal to acknowledge the reality of the situation. Most of the primary evidence of The Haunting is coming from someone he deeply distrusts and suspects of sabotaging his work, while the secondary evidence can be explained away by non-supernatural means. It's a pretty good balancing act overall. Not a flawless one, but pretty good. For a significant chunk of the film, there is a bit too much talking and theorising about the possible explanations for what phenomena just occurred, which does undermine the film's momentum at times, as it then has to rebuild toward the next supernatural set piece. Now, to his credit, Matheson does cut down on the talky parts in the film's latter stages, allowing the pace to build and accelerate as we head into the final act. Which is unfortunately where the wheels come off. I've not read Matheson's original novel, but apparently for the film he decided to rewrite the ending. I don't know his motives for this. Perhaps he was dissatisfied with the original. Perhaps he simply thought this was better. Perhaps he wanted to surprise viewers who did know the book. Whatever his reasons, though, they were either misguided or at the very least they misfired. Matheson's taken a minor clue from the book and expanded it into the linchpin that sustains and explains the entire haunting. Unfortunately, due to the nature of that clue, this rather undermines the unplacable evil of the house and the gaudy excess of its malevolent former owner, leaving them little more than hollowed out posturing and envy. And perhaps that was even Matheson's attempt. Real-world evil is often banal, venal, and small. Maybe he meant this ending to reflect that fact. But if so, I think the effort went awry. The menace of the film is lost, and what should be a rousing final encounter instead, to me at least, became unintentionally comical. At the end of it all, The Legend of Hell House isn't good enough that I'd ever want to rewatch it, but I suppose I'd have to say it shows enough promise that I would like to read the original novel. I have, in fact, wishlisted it, and we'll get to it one day. I have a very large pile of unread books to get through. So that's The Legend of Hell House. Next time, the 2001 cheerleader crime comedy Sugar and Spice. But that is next time. Until then, thanks for watching this video, and I hope you enjoyed it.